My name is Jenna Collins, and I'm 31 years old. On paper, my life is the kind of thing that makes loan officers relax their shoulders, and landlords offer the quiet corner unit with a smile. I have a stable job, a clean credit score, and a one-bedroom apartment where every piece of furniture passed through both a coupon code and a spreadsheet before it crossed the threshold. The lease is in my name. The utilities are in my name. The chipped mugs in my cabinet sit beside a color-coded budget binder that knows exactly when every bill is due and how fast my stomach drops if my credit score even thinks about dipping below 780. I don't chase adrenaline, I chase stability. Quiet. The comfort of knowing that if my laptop dies, my car needs a repair, or my boss decides to have a meltdown, I'm going to be okay. For a long time, I thought my love life matched that same reliable pattern. I'd been with my boyfriend Victor Hale for 5 years. He's 29, charming in a polished shoes, curated Instagram kind of way. He works in marketing, brand strategy, as he likes to say, with the same tone people use for neurosurgery. Where my world is code and documentation, Victor's is mood boards and metrics, follower counts, and aesthetic cohesion. He makes less than I do on paper, but I never cared. He was ambitious. He had plans. And in my head, the story was simple. I was the serious spreadsheet girl. He was the charismatic social one. Together we were balanced. 2 years ago, he'd proposed, down on one knee in a rooftop bar, fairy lights, a photographer hiding behind a potted plant. I'd cried, obviously. I said yes. Of course I said yes. We didn't set a date. At first it was because of work, then timing, then the vague idea of waiting until things are right. I didn't push. I was busy. I trusted that when we were ready, we'd both just know. Then came the Sunday dinner. Victor's parents host a family dinner once a month. Mandatory. No excuses unless you're dead or overseas. And even then, his mother might still ask if you can at least FaceTime in. That night, their house smelled like garlic and pot roast, and just a hint of barely concealed judgment. The dining room was full. His dad Robert, his mom Linda, Victor, his younger brother Eli, and me. Eli is 26, all quiet eyes and rolled up sleeves, the opposite of Victor's constant performance. He works full-time while finishing his MBA and still somehow remembers everyone's birthdays. He's the kind of guy who helps you move and refuses gas money, but insists on bringing snacks. We were halfway through dinner when Robert dabbed his mouth with a napkin and turned to Victor. "So," he said, "when are we finally setting a date for this wedding?" I smiled, swallowed a bite of pasta, and looked at Victor. Victor laughed. Not a nervous chuckle, a full, dismissive laugh. "We're waiting until Jenna gets her finances in order," he said casually, like he was commenting on the weather. The fork paused halfway to my mouth. "I'm sorry?" Everyone looked at me like I'd interrupted a scheduled program. Victor patted my hand, the way you'd reassure a child. "Babe, it's not a big deal." My cheeks went hot. "What do you mean, gets my finances in order?" He gave me that PR-trained smile. "You make what, 60-something? 65 a year?" 65, I said. Comfortably, with savings, with good credit, with no debt. Robert leaned back in his chair. "That's respectable," he said, in the same tone you'd use for, "that's a decent used car." Linda shook her head. "These days, respectable doesn't cut it, not if you want to build a certain kind of life." Victor squeezed my hand, still smiling. "Exactly. I need security, Jen. We need it. I can't marry someone who's making under 6 figures. Not long term. I have standards." The room went quiet in that heavy, buzzing way where you can hear your own heartbeat. I stared at him. "Excuse me?" He gestured vaguely, like this was all self-evident. "Let's be realistic. My friends' wives all either come from money or make real money. 6 figures and up. 2-income power couples. That's the lifestyle I want for us." I blinked. My brain was doing that thing where it tries to crash and reboot at the same time. "We've been engaged for 2 years, I said slowly. "Together for 5. We share an apartment. We've never once been late on rent. We have an emergency fund. We go on trips. I thought we were good." "You're fine," Linda said quickly. "But marriage is different. It's a partnership. If Victor's going to be the face of a certain lifestyle, his wife needs to match that." Eli shifted in his chair. He was watching me, brow furrowed. "Mom," he said quietly, "Jen works her ass off, and she's saved more than half the people I know who make 6 figures. Linda's smile tightened. "Nobody's questioning her work ethic, Eli, but this is about goals, standards." Victor leaned forward, eyes on me. You get there, babe, and we'll set the date. 1 year. Hit 6 figures. Then we'll plan the wedding you deserve. I felt my throat close. So the engagement is conditional? Don't be dramatic, Victor said. Think of it as motivation. Robert nodded. He's right. These days, a modern woman should be bringing in serious money. Man, woman, whatever. Both sides need to earn. If you want a certain lifestyle, you have to level up. I looked around the table. Linda nodding, Robert approving. Victor, smiling like he'd just given a TED Talk. Only Eli looked like he wanted to flip the table over. This is harsh, he muttered. You're talking about her like she's an investment portfolio. Victor shot him a look. I'm talking about our future. Don't make it weird. My chest hurt, not from the idea of making more money. That part almost made sense. I like goals. I like numbers. I like charts. No, what hurt was the realization that somewhere along the line, I'd stopped being a person Victor loved and turned into a project he wanted to upgrade. I swallowed hard. And what about you? I asked. You make what now? He shrugged. 55, but I'm on track. My brand deals are going to explode this year. So I have to make 6 figures, I said, while you might. Victor rolled his eyes. You're in tech, Jenna. It's easy for you. That's like 1 promotion, 2 tops. The worst part? Some tiny, unhealthy part of my brain agreed. It whispered, you could do it. If you work 80-hour weeks, if you take every certification, if you never sleep, you could get there. You could hit 6 figures. You could prove you're worth marrying. Worth, like there was a price tag. I put my fork down. My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. Give me a year, I heard myself say. Victor's face lit up. See, he said to his parents, that's why I'm with her. She gets it. She's willing to put in the work. Linda beamed. That's the spirit. Women today have so much opportunity. It's just about grabbing it. Eli's eyes met mine across the table. There was no judgment there, just concern. Quiet anger that wasn't aimed at me. Jenna, he said softly, you don't have to. I said I'll do it, I cut in, more to myself than anyone else. Because if I backed down now, they'd say it proved their point. That I was fine with good enough. That I didn't have ambition. I've never been able to walk away from a challenge, even a toxic one. Victor leaned over and kissed my cheek. I'm proud of you, he murmured. This is going to be amazing for us. Us. Funny how, for something that was supposedly for us, I already knew I'd be the one paying the price. That night in our apartment, Victor pulled out his laptop and showed me a spreadsheet he'd made. Columns, rows, targets. Here's where you are now, he said, tapping the screen. Here's where you need to be. 6 figures minimum. Then we'll talk wedding dates, house upgrades, maybe even a second car. And what do you bring financially? I asked before I could stop myself. He didn't miss a beat. I bring me, he said. My network, my image, my support. That should be enough. Later, when he fell asleep scrolling through DMs and engagement stats, I stood alone in the kitchen. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I opened my budget binder. My numbers were neat, controlled, predictable. Then I opened a blank page. At the top, I wrote, 1 year, 6 figures. Underneath, I wrote something else, smaller, almost an afterthought. Also, figure out if the man who needs this from you is actually the man you should marry. I stared at that second line for a long time. Then I closed the binder and turned off the light, pretending not to see Eli's name pop up on my phone with a simple text. Hey, just wanted to say I'm sorry about dinner. You didn't deserve that. I didn't answer, not yet. But it was the first message that made me feel seen that day. And it wasn't from my fiancé. Month 1. I threw myself into the plan the way I usually throw myself into disaster recovery at work. Fast, focused, pretending I'm not quietly panicking inside. By day, I was still Jenna the Reliable, closing tickets, deploying updates, answering the same 5 user questions with slightly different wording. By night, I was someone else. I made a list of every certification that could bump my resume, every internal promotion track, every job posting that mentioned 6 figures like a casual afterthought. My apartment, normally a calm sanctuary of beige and tidy cables, turned into a war room. Sticky notes on the wall, a whiteboard with income targets, a spreadsheet for applications, another for skills, another for stretch goals. Victor loved it. He'd come home, glance at the whiteboard, and whistle. Now that's what I'm talking about. Hustle. This is going to blow up your earning potential and my brand. Your brand? I'd ask, half joking. Babe, he'd say, we're a package. When you win, I win. When people see us, they'll see success. The first time he said my brand more than our future, I felt something twist in my stomach. I ignored it. Instead, I slept less. I signed up for weekend classes. I coded side projects. I watched my social life shrivel into a series of unread group chats. 2 weeks in, the dark circles under my eyes had their own dark circles. That's when Eli texted me again. "How's the motivation plan going?" I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then, against my better judgment, I answered, "Exhausting. But I'll get there. You shouldn't have to bleed for a wedding date," he replied. "It's not about the wedding," I wrote. "It's about proving I can. You already did." "For 5 years," he answered. "They're just too blinded by numbers to see it." The honesty of it burned. A week later, I was at my desk at 8:30 p.m., the office half dark, most people gone. My screen was a blur of documentation and online course quizzes when my phone buzzed. Lobby. It was Eli. I frowned, walked out, and found him standing near the entrance with 2 coffees in hand. "You look like you needed this," he said, holding one out. "How did you know I was still here?" I asked. Eli lifted a shoulder. "You're Jenna. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And Victor posted a late-night grind story from your couch half an hour ago, so he's definitely not the one working." There it was again. That quiet, non-dramatic, razor-sharp observation that cut through the fog. We sat in the empty break room. He listened as I talked, not just about the certifications and job postings, but about the way Victor had started saying things like, "when we hit 6 figures," when what he really meant was, "when you hit it." "He keeps saying this is for us," I said, "but I'm the one going blind over code at midnight." "And what's he doing?" Eli asked. I hesitated. "He's building his social media, talking about dating with standards." Eli's jaw clenched. "He started that series, didn't he?" "What series?" He pulled out his phone and opened TikTok. There it was, Victor's account, polished, curated, and a series title in bold letters, "Dating Below Your Level, but Training Her Up." My stomach dropped. He hit play. Victor, perfectly lit, stared into the camera with faux, sympathetic eyes. "Ladies," he said, "if you're dating a girl who's not making what you need for your future, don't settle. Set standards. Help her level up." My blood ran cold. He didn't say my name. He didn't show my face. But the story he told about a girlfriend who makes mid-60s in tech and thinks that's enough wasn't generic. It was me. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to train your partner to rise to your standards. Don't lower yours." The comments were full of heart emojis and "yes, king," and "know your worth." Eli watched my face carefully. "I'm sorry," he said. "I thought you'd seen these." I swallowed hard. I didn't. A part of me wanted to make excuses. He's exaggerating for content. He doesn't mean it like that. It's just branding. But another part of me, the part that lives in the quiet moments when the Wi-Fi is off and my spreadsheets are closed, knew better. "Maybe this is what it takes," I said dully. "Maybe this is just modern love." Eli's voice was soft but firm. "If this is modern love, it's defective." He walked me back to my desk that night. Before he left, he said, "You're not below anyone's level, Jenna. Don't let a trending sound convince you otherwise." For the first time in weeks, I closed my laptop before midnight. Month 3. The grind didn't stop, but the reason shifted. There's a difference between breaking yourself trying to be worthy of someone and pushing yourself because you finally remember you're worthy on your own. The first is desperation. The second is power. Bit by bit, late night by late night, my motivation slid from, "I have to prove myself so Victor will marry me," to "I want to see what I can do for me." I didn't tell Victor when that switch happened. He was too busy turning my life into content. The series took off. He started looping in phrases like "raising your standards" and "don't wife a woman who's comfortable with average." When I confronted him, he shrugged. "Babe, it's persona. It's not about you." "You literally used my salary," I said. He smirked. "You think you're the only woman making 65 in tech? Come on, don't be so sensitive. This is motivating you. Look how hard you're working." I realized that in Victor's world, humiliation and motivation were the same thing, as long as the humiliation wasn't his. Month 5. I got an email from a major tech company I'd applied to on a dare, assuming they'd never even see my resume. They wanted an interview for a senior position. I read the email 3 times before it sank in. The next week was a blur of prep. Mock interviews, coding challenges, system design questions. Eli quizzed me over FaceTime, tossing me rapid-fire prompts while simultaneously working on his own case studies. "You know this," he kept saying. "Stop talking like you're sneaking into a party you weren't invited to. You belong in that room." The interview day came. I wore my best blazer, the one that made me feel like I had my life together, even when I didn't. The panel was intense but fair. They loved my portfolio of late-night side projects, the same ones Victor had called overkill and try-hard perfectionism. 2 days later, the recruiter called. Starting salary $105,000, plus bonuses, benefits, growth. Is that acceptable to you? She asked. I laughed. It came out half sob, half hysteria. Yes, I said, that's acceptable. After I hung up, I sat on my couch in silence, phone in my lap, heart pounding. I'd done it. I'd hit the number. I should have felt triumphant. I mostly felt empty. The first person I texted was Victor. Got the offer, $105K. 3 seconds later, my phone rang. He screamed. He actually screamed. You did it, he shouted. Babe, this is insane. This is huge for us, for the brand, for everything. He insisted on picking me up from work that night so we could celebrate properly. When I came downstairs, he was leaning against his car, grinning, phone already out, recording. Tell them, babe, he said, camera on me. Tell them what you just did. I forced a smile. I got a new job. With what salary, he prompted. 105, I said. His followers lost their minds in the comments. He read some aloud as we drove. She's a keeper. Manifesting this. Teach me how to train my girl like that. I stared out the window and tried not to throw up. That night, after the video, after the champagne, after the loud declarations about finally getting the wedding we deserve, Victor opened a fresh spreadsheet. Okay, he said, eyes bright. Now that you're at 6 figures, we can start planning for real. I ran some numbers. For the kind of wedding we need, we're looking at a minimum of $75,000. $75,000, I repeated, on one day? On the most important day, he corrected. Venue, catering, photographer, videographer, designer dress, content team. We can't cheap out on your moment. It'll pay off long-term with sponsorships. Whose money is this coming from? I asked. Ours, he said. Mostly yours, obviously, for the upfront, but think of it as an investment. I stared at the screen. In his spreadsheet, there was a column for my new salary, another for wedding budget, another for content opportunities. There was no column for what Victor contributes. His assumed future brand deals were just implied. And after the wedding? I asked quietly. He smiled. Then we start planning the house. I've already bookmarked some neighborhoods, but we'll talk about that after you get your first bonus. Somewhere deep inside, something finally snapped a little. Not all the way. Not enough to leave. Just enough to whisper, this isn't we. This is you. That weekend, I met Eli at the library. Old habit now. We took over a corner table, my new job paperwork, and his case study notes spread between us. I did it, I told him. 105. He didn't scream. He didn't pull out his phone. He just smiled. Slow, warm, proud. I knew you would, he said. Not because someone dangled a ring over your head, because that's who you are. When he hugged me, it was supposed to be quick, friendly, a simple congratulation. But his arms were solid and familiar, and my body, traitorous, relaxed into him like it had been waiting for that particular shape of safety for a long time. The hug lasted a second too long. We both felt it. We stepped back at the same time, eyes not quite meeting. Jenna, he started. Eli, I said over him. We both laughed, too loud for a quiet library. He cleared his throat. Whatever happens with my brother, he said carefully, whatever you decide, I just want you to know something. What? You were already enough at 65, he said. You'd be enough at 30, or 10, or 0. Anyone who needed you to hit 6 figures just to see that never really saw you at all. For the first time, I let myself wonder, not in a flicker, not in a passing guilty thought, but fully, what my life might look like if the person cheering for me wasn't the one who turned my goals into content, but the one who simply believed I was enough, even if I'd never opened a single certification course. That was the night I realized something terrifying. I'd started this year to earn Victor's love. Somewhere along the way, I'd outgrown the version of myself who thought his love was the prize. Month 7. The first paycheck from my new job hit my account, and Victor celebrated by quitting his. He didn't even warn me. I just can't focus on work and the wedding, he said, pacing our living room with that effortless confidence I used to mistake for leadership. It's too much. I need to give our future my full attention. Our future, I repeated slowly. So, you quit? He grinned, temporarily. I'm going to focus on the content side, sponsorships, brand partnerships, maybe launch a podcast about modern relationships. The momentum from your promotion is perfect timing. He said your promotion like it was a product launch he'd managed. Victor, we live off both our incomes, I said. You can't just... Relax, Jenna. He waved a hand. You're making six figures now. You've got us. No matter how many ways I said that's not how math works, he didn't care. I could feel it in my chest. The shift. The invisible click where love turned into leverage. He started spending freely, calling it wedding prep. New suits, a necessary new camera, designer outfits for engagement photos we hadn't booked. Every argument ended the same way. You make enough now. You promised me a certain lifestyle. This is what successful couples do. He said couples, but all I saw was me, working overtime while he built castles in the air. By month 8, I'd lost track of how many spreadsheets he'd made that had my income listed and his contributions blank. Then came the dinner. Victor's parents had invited everyone again. Family night. Wedding updates. I was tempted to fake a migraine, but guilt and curiosity about what they'd say this time won. We arrived to find the table set like a magazine spread. Linen napkins, sparkling glasses, a cake that said, "To the future, Mr. and Mrs. Hale." I hadn't even picked a date. "Surprise," Linda said, clapping her hands. "We thought we'd celebrate your engagement now that Jenna's finally made it." Finally, as if the past 5 years had been a waiting room for his approval. Then Victor stood. "Speaking of which, good news, everyone. We've already made deposits on 3 potential venues." My stomach dropped. "What?" I asked. He smiled like a politician. "I wanted to surprise you. You can pick whichever one you like best." "How much were the deposits?" $5,000 each, he said proudly. "With what money?" "Our savings." I stared at him. "You mean my savings?" "Same thing," he said lightly. "What's yours is ours, right?" Before I could answer, Eli spoke up. His tone was sharper than I'd ever heard. "Victor, you can't just spend her money without asking." Victor's smile cracked. "Stay out of this." "Someone has to say it," Eli shot back. "You're using her like a bank account." Linda's fork hit the table with a clatter. "Eli, that's enough. Don't talk to your brother like that." "He's talking to Jenna like she's his employee," Eli said. "Maybe someone should." Victor's face flushed. "You jealous little brother? Always have been, huh? Maybe if you weren't so boring, you'd have a girlfriend who believes in you too." Eli leaned forward, voice calm but shaking slightly. "Jenna believes in herself. You're just taking credit for it." The table went silent. Victor laughed, brittle and mean. "You think you know her? Please, you've never been in a real relationship." Eli's eyes flicked toward me for half a second, and that tiny flicker, whatever it was, ignited something ugly in Victor's expression. Linda jumped in, her voice all honeyed diplomacy. "Let's not ruin dinner. We're all family." "No," I said quietly, setting my napkin down. "We're not." I stood, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Victor," I said, "you had no right to touch my savings. That's theft." "It's for us," he said. "Why are you being selfish?" "Selfish?" I laughed once, sharp. "You quit your job to plan a wedding I'm paying for and call me selfish?" Robert sighed like a disappointed coach. "Sweetheart, men have egos. Let him take the lead." I looked at him. He's not leading. He's looting. Eli half smiled despite himself. That made Victor snap. "You know what?" he barked. "Maybe I should have listened to Mom from the start. Maybe you're not marriage material after all." Linda gasped. Robert muttered something about respect. Eli stood abruptly. "Don't," he said. "Don't say another word." "Or what?" Victor sneered. "You'll save her? You think she'd ever want you?" Eli didn't rise to it. He just looked at me, calm and steady. "You don't have to take this, Jenna." It was such a simple sentence. No drama, no threats, just truth. And it was the first time all night anyone had spoken to me like I mattered. I left the table without another word. Victor followed me to the driveway, still shouting about how I'd embarrassed him. I kept walking. He didn't notice that Eli followed too, quietly, at a distance, just to make sure I got to my car. When I finally sat behind the wheel, shaking, I saw him standing there in the porch light, his hands jammed in his pockets. He didn't say anything until I rolled down the window. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said honestly, "not even close." He nodded. "Good. You shouldn't be." I laughed weakly. "You have a terrible bedside manner." Eli leaned against the car. "Jenna, I know it's not my place, but—" "Say it," I said. "I think you know what you have to do." I looked straight ahead. "I can't. Not yet. The apartment's in my name. His stuff's everywhere. His parents—" He cut me off gently. "He quit his job. He's spending your money. He's humiliating you online. You've already lost more than you'll ever owe him." I stared at the steering wheel, knuckles white. Then Eli said something that made my heart drop straight into my stomach. "You know," he said softly, "I've had feelings for you since the day you helped me move 2 years ago." The world stopped moving for a second. I turned to him, but he wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the gravel, jaw tight, like he'd finally let something slip he'd buried for too long. I did know, I said quietly. Deep down. He nodded once. This is complicated. I know. You need to end it clean. Take some time. Then maybe... He trailed off. Maybe what? I asked. Maybe see what happens. My family would implode, I said. He smiled sadly. They already treat me like the screw-up for having boundaries. What's one more disappointment? For a moment, we just sat in silence. The air between us felt heavier than the night. Then he said, He doesn't love you, Jenna. He loves what loving you makes him look like. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. I drove home that night knowing Eli was right. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel scared of losing Victor. I felt scared of staying. Month 10. I came home one Thursday to find Victor's friends crowded in our living room, champagne bottles open, bridal magazines scattered across the table. What's all this? I asked. Victor turned, grinning. Wedding planning party. For what wedding? I said. I haven't agreed to a date. Details, he said. We're just brainstorming. My voice came out flat. Pack your things. He blinked. What? We're done. The room went silent. His friends looked between us like they'd just realized they were front row at a live breakup. Is this a joke? Victor asked, half laughing. You can't just... I can, I said. You wanted 6 figures? I hit it. You said that made me marriage material. Turns out it just made me realize I don't want to marry someone who sees me as a paycheck. His face changed, confusion, then panic, then fury. You can't leave me, he shouted. I made you. I shook my head. No, I made me. You were just standing in the background taking credit. He started crying, begging, promising therapy, rebranding, even trying to grab my hand. I didn't flinch. You'll regret this, he yelled as I walked toward the door. No one else will ever push you like I did. I stopped, turned back, and said quietly, Someone already does. He just doesn't need to make me feel small first. The next morning, I moved the last box to my storage unit and blocked his number. For about 12 hours, I thought that was the end. Then the smear campaign began. He went online, posting tearful videos about how his toxic ex abandoned him after he built her up. He claimed I'd been emotionally abusive, that I used him for content ideas, that I pretended to be humble while chasing status. His followers believed every word. My DMs filled with messages from strangers calling me trash. At work, someone left a printout of one of his posts on my desk with the caption, Wow, cold. I wanted to crawl into a hole. Instead, I deleted my social media, switched to private, and reminded myself, noise doesn't equal truth. The next week, Eli texted me, Dinner? Neutral ground. I promise no family talk. I hesitated, then agreed. We met at a small Italian place near the river. No phones, no followers, just candlelight and quiet. He looked at me across the table and said, You look lighter. I feel broke, I said dryly. He smiled. That too. When the check came, he didn't let me pay, or insist on paying. He just said, Let's split it. 50-50. Equal. I didn't realize how long it had been since that word meant something good. That night, walking to my car, he reached for my hand. Not possessively, just gently. And for the first time, I didn't pull away. Month 11. 2 months after the breakup, my life finally started to feel like mine again. The silence was strange at first. No constant pings from Victor, no new spreadsheets emailed to me at midnight, no public motivational videos that used my life as an allegory for ambition. Just quiet. And in that quiet, something new had space to grow. Eli and I didn't rush. We didn't even call it dating at first. It started with coffee runs, grocery trips, late-night walks when the air was cool and forgiving. He made me laugh in the way people do when they've already seen the worst parts of your life and decided to stay anyway. There was no agenda, no proving, just peace. But peace doesn't trend online, and Victor couldn't stand being forgotten. He started small, vague posts about fake women who used him for fame. Then videos about gold diggers in tech pretending to be self-made. His followers, who had once called me queen when I was the backdrop to his hustle story, now filled his comments with snake emojis and long paragraphs about ungrateful women who destroy good men. I tried to ignore it, but then he showed up. At my office. He walked right past security, tears already running down his face, claiming we'd had a fight and he was worried for my safety. HR had to escort him out. I spent the rest of that day sitting in a conference room, shaking, trying not to cry, as my boss handed me tissues and said we could file a report if necessary. It was necessary. I changed my phone number that night. When Eli found out, he was furious in that quiet, focused way that made my heart hurt. Not because I was scared of his anger, but because I could feel how much he wanted to protect me. "Do you want me to talk to him?" he asked. "No," I said. "Talking is what he wants. Attention is the oxygen he breathes." Eli nodded slowly. "Then we starve him of it." For a while it worked, until Victor saw us together. It happened one Friday night. We were at a small rooftop restaurant. Not fancy, not flashy, just somewhere that felt normal. I was laughing, really laughing, when I heard my name. "Jenna." He was standing near the entrance, eyes wide, phone already recording. Because of course he was. "You're with him?" he shouted. "My brother?" The entire restaurant turned. Eli stood immediately. "Victor, stop." But Victor didn't stop. He stormed over, camera still rolling, voice rising with every word. "My brother Jenna, you break my heart, ruin my career, and then—" "Your career?" I cut in, calm but shaking. "You built a career off humiliating me." "I made you," he snapped. "Everything you have is because I worked for it," I said. "You just took credit." He turned to Eli. "You stole her." Eli's voice was steady. "You threw her away." The manager called security. Victor refused to leave until Eli physically stepped between us. Even then, as they led him out, he shouted over his shoulder, "You'll regret this, both of you." The next morning, his mother called. "Jenna," she said, voice brittle with fake calm, "how could you do this to our family? To Victor?" "Linda," I said, "I didn't do anything. He and I broke up months ago. He's the one—" "I don't want to hear it," she snapped. "You've turned Eli against his own brother. You've embarrassed us all." She hung up before I could reply. That week, the Hale family imploded online. Robert posted a long Facebook rant about loyalty and betrayal. Victor went on a podcast to share his truth, claiming Eli had always been jealous and that I'd used the brothers to climb. Eli and I didn't respond publicly. We didn't need to. People who mattered already knew the truth. Still, the damage was exhausting. Friends picked sides. Some unfollowed me. Others messaged privately saying, "We always knew Victor was like that." But the only thing that really mattered was this. I could finally breathe. 2 weeks later, something even more unbelievable happened. Victor announced on social media that he was going to be a father. The caption read, "Some blessings come from pain. Can't wait to meet my baby, even if the mother doesn't want me in her life." Attached was a blurry photo of a positive pregnancy test. No name, no details. Just implication. My phone started blowing up before breakfast. Colleagues, friends, even my boss. "Is this about you?" Eli came over immediately. He'd already seen it. "She's pregnant," he said, tone unreadable. "She's lying," I said. "We haven't spoken since the night I ended it. And I know exactly when the last time we were together was. The math doesn't work." "Then we handle it head on," he said. So I commented under Victor's post publicly, "Happy to take a paternity test immediately." The post vanished within an hour. Then, predictably, came the follow-up. "Heartbroken to share that I lost the baby due to stress. Please respect my privacy." The comments exploded again, filled with sympathy and outrage. But this time, people started questioning the timeline. Eli posted a simple screenshot thread. Our breakup dates, my new job offer, the exact timeline of our first date months later. No captions, just receipts. The silence afterward from Victor's camp was deafening. He stopped posting for weeks. When he finally returned, his tone had changed. Softer, almost remorseful. He posted vague self-help quotes about healing and forgiveness. I scrolled past them without feeling anything. Because by then, Eli and I were planning our wedding. We didn't want anything big. Just a courthouse ceremony, a dinner with close friends, maybe a weekend road trip instead of a honeymoon. No hashtags, no photographers, no sponsorships. Eli wanted to send invitations to his parents anyway. "They probably won't come," he said, "but I'd rather take the high road." So we did. And because I couldn't resist a little poetic justice, we sent one to Victor too, with a handwritten note inside. "Thank you for showing me what I don't want in a partner. Your push for success led me to find real love with someone who loved me at 65K and celebrates me at 125K. Sometimes the best motivation comes from the worst examples." Eli had raised an eyebrow when he read it. "Petty?" he asked. "Therapeutic," I said. The wedding day came on a quiet Friday morning. 20 people. No press, no spectacle, no parents. I wore a simple dress I bought myself. Eli wore a gray suit that had been tailored twice but still didn't quite fit his shoulders. It was perfect. The courthouse ceremony lasted 15 minutes. When the clerk said, "You may kiss," I realized I'd never once felt nervous the way I had when I was engaged to Victor. Afterward, we headed to a small restaurant for dinner with friends. Private room, soft lighting, a single bottle of champagne. And that's when I saw him. Victor, sitting alone at the bar, half drunk, phone face down beside a glass. Eli saw him too. He tensed, but I touched his hand. "Let him stay," I said quietly. "Let him see." So we did. He sat there the whole night, pretending not to watch as our friends toasted us, as they talked about how Eli and I made each other better, as they described love that looked like teamwork, not performance. At one point, Victor's parents walked in. They saw him, saw us, and turned around without a word. Victor didn't leave until dessert. Then he stumbled to our table, eyes glassy, voice slurred. "You were right," he said to me. "You were already somebody at 65. I was just too stupid to see it." "No," I said gently. "You saw it. You just decided it wasn't enough." He looked at Eli. "Take care of her." Eli met his gaze. "We take care of each other. That's the difference." Victor nodded once, turned, and walked out. He didn't post anything that night. For the first time in years, he went silent. 6 months later, he's still single, still living with his parents, still posting about knowing your worth, while sliding into DMs of women who hashtag luxury mindset. Eli and I bought a modest house last month. 2 dogs, shared mortgage, equal names on everything. Sometimes Victor texts me, always some version of, "I made you who you are." I never respond. Because the truth is, he did motivate me, just not in the way he meant. He showed me what not to want, what not to accept, what not to become. And in trying to teach me how to level up, he accidentally taught me how to leave. Last week, on our first anniversary, Eli and I mailed him a card. Inside we wrote, "Thanks for setting the bar so low that real love felt like a high jump." Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? More than I can say. He blocked us both after that. Finally, the best wedding gift he ever gave me was silence.